Hey y'all, I'm gonna be reading from my book again. America, 1900. Frederick Lewis Allen. In this glimpse of turn of the century America, popular social historian Frederick Lewis Allen describes the manners, mores, and ways of life in the year 1900. He paints a vivid picture of a life very different from the one most Americans know today. Allen illustrates the vast gap between the wealthy and the poor at the start of the 20th century. America, contends Allen, was a nation on the brink of great change. Change for which it really was not prepared. A graduate of Harvard University, Frederick Lewis Allen was a longtime editor of Harper's Magazine and the author of numerous articles for Harper's, Atlantic Monthly, The New Yorker, and Life. Lewis also authored a number of books, including 3 widely acclaimed social histories of America: The Big Change, America Transformed Itself, 1900 to 1950, Only Yesterday, An Informal History of the 1920s and Since Yesterday, the 1930s in America. His papers are housed in the manuscript division of the Library of Congress. On the morning of January 1st, 1900, they were skating for New Yorkers in Van Cortlandt Park, and presently it began to snow. But the sharp cold had not chilled the enthusiasm of the crowds who, the night before, had assembled in Lower Broadway to celebrate either the beginning of the 20th century or the beginning of the last year of the 19th. There was some disagreement as to the proper interpretation of the event, but none as to the size and liveliness of the gathering. It had been a good year, and another one was coming. In its leading editorial of January 1st, the New York Times sounded an optimistic keynote. The year 1899 was a year of wonders, a veritable annus mirabilis in business and production, it proclaimed. It would be easy to speak of the 12 months just past as a banner year. Were we not already confident that the distinction of the highest records was presently passed to year 1900? The outlook on the threshold of the new year is extremely bright. Uptown in the mahogany-paneled library of his big brownstone house at the corner of Madison Avenue and 36th Street, John Pierpont Morgan, head of the mightiest banking house in the world and the most powerful man in American business, sat playing solitaire as the old year drew to an end. During the next 12 months, Morgan would buy paintings and rare books and manuscripts in immense profusion on a European trip. Would have temporary ballroom built beside his house to accommodate 2,400 guests at his daughter's wedding, and would begin negotiations with Andrew Carnegie of Carnegie Hall, a twinkling little stillmaster whose personal income in 1900 would be over $23 million with no income tax to pay, for the formation of the United States Steel Corporation, the biggest corporation that the world had ever seen. Morgan could not foresee all this now, as he arranged the cards before him, but he was content. There were, to be sure, hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers for whom the city was hardly a pleasant place in which to live. On the Lower East Side, there were poverty, filth, wretchedness, on a scale which to us today would seem incredible. And in many other cities and industrial towns of America, the immigrant families were living under comparable conditions, or worse, for at a time when the average wage earner in the United States got hardly $500 a year. Most of the newcomers to the country scrabbled for far less. It was a time of complacency. Since the end of the Depression of the mid-90s, the voices of protest at the disparities of force in the United States were weakened. Populism was dead, the free silver agitation petered out. The once angry farmers of the Plains states were making out so well that in 1899 a traveler commented that every barn in Kansas and Nebraska has had a new coat of paint. Not yet had the oncoming group of journalists whom President Theodore Roosevelt and a burst of irritation labeled muckrackers begun to publish their remorseless studies of the steamy side of American life. Morgan looked confidently forward to an era of stability and common sense, in which political leaders like Mark Hanna would see that no foolish egalitarian ideas got anywhere in government, and in which the regulation of American business would be undertaken not by politicians, but by bankers like himself, honorable men of wealth and judgment, such as he liked to see in his favorite clubs. Morgan would have been bewildered had he been able to foresee what the next half century would bring to the nation. Please comment, rate, and subscribe down below. And if you're on TikTok, please like and follow. Bye.